My name is Caroline Colas, and I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Today on our Positive Psychology Hour, a series that we are, and a partnership that we are delighted and honored to host with the Whole Being Institute, we're going to be discussing where do we go from here, chaos or community. This is week one of a two-part series. We will also meet next Thursday for the second part with Uneeda Brewer and Stephen Redmon. In his 1967 book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "This is no time for romantic illusions and empty philosophical debates about freedom. This is a time for action." Uneeda and Stephen are going to facilitate an interactive dialogue on how in these chaotic times it's important to activate hope and choose actions that move us toward a more just society. Together, we will explore the action each of us can take to co-create a beloved community, the just and equitable multiracial democracy for which Dr. King fought and gave his life. We're going to commemorate and honor the life and work of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Uneeda has more than 25 years experience coaching individuals to improve their personal effectiveness and ability to work well with diverse colleagues and consulting with teams and organizations to improve outcomes and employee satisfaction. She retired from Johnson & Johnson, where she was responsible for one of the corporation's global executive education programs. And in 2019, her company, Accelerate Coaching and Consulting LLC, was chosen by New College of Florida to design and deliver a series of workshops on diversity and inclusion for a campus climate initiative. She is a certified practitioner of psychodrama, sociometry, and group psychotherapy, and is in the process of completing the requirements to become a trainer and educator in this field. Uneeda is a founding member of the recently organized Action Training for Social Change Collective in Tampa Bay area, which designs and delivers trainings for religious and community groups to help individuals and groups create and support social justice initiatives in their communities. Uneeda is enrolled in the Whole Being Institute Positive Psychology Coach Certification Program and the Certificate in Whole Being Positive Psychology, and was trained as an executive and life coach in the Core Essentials program provided by Coach U, Inc. She holds a BA in the American Studies from Goucher College and an MSW from Clark Atlanta University School of Social Work in Policy, Planning, and Administration. Now, Stephen is PhD, JD, leads yoga retreats around the world through his business, Namdar Yoga. His specialty is helping people, often veterans, cope with trauma. A veteran himself, Stephen worked for the Department of Defense and then as a special assistant to the General Counsel of the Department of Veterans Affairs, for which he retired in 2018. Stephen holds an advanced certifications in yoga, but originally taught himself yoga while an undergraduate as a way to overcome his own trauma from growing up in Harlem, surrounded by violence and rampant drug use. Redmon teaches yoga at George Washington University and believes there is a need for bringing people together across all types of racial, religious, and gender lines. He enjoys being a part of the healing for individuals and communities. He earned his BA from Colgate University and served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Sierra Leone, West Africa. He earned his JD Law degree at North Carolina Central University of Law, where he researched and developed the first edition of the Rules of Court for the Cherokee Indian Tribal Court. He earned a Master's of Law, LLM, in Environmental Law at Pace University of Law, and an LLM in Military Law from JAG Legal Center at University of Virginia. He holds a PhD from Fielding Graduate Institute in Human and Organizational Systems, and he's inspired by his commitment for national service and national security. After the tragic events of 9/11, he completed his MS in Strategic Intelligence from the National Intelligence University at Defense Intelligence Agency and taught graduate level courses at DIA on the law of intelligence. Welcome to the call, Uneeda and Stephen. Thank you so much for being here and for having this important conversation with us. We are very, very grateful. I'm going to add you both and let you take it away, Uneeda. I think you're going to introduce Stephen.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. And the question that I told Stephen that I was going to ask him is, what else do you want people to know about you that wasn't in your resume?
I love to serve, and I believe that all of us are united in our belief in God, and I think that that's something that we have to keep in mind throughout this that we're engaged in a spiritual warfare as well. And I'm not going to be shy about that.
Yeah.
I think that the strength of a Southern Baptist like myself linking up with folks with the Jewish Community Center, I think we're on track to keep that in mind, keeping God first and continue to do the things that we're doing. So I'm here to serve. Amen.
Amen. Well, I could say ditto, right? Because faith is a foundation for me. And, spirituality is about the transcendent. And so there are a lot of ways that we can tap into our spiritual core. So if you're on this call and you're going, well, I'm not Jewish and I'm not Southern Baptist and I don't even know if I believe in a God, but I got spiritual food and spiritual succor. So welcome all kinds of transcendent spiritual connections because we need them. There's a song that says, if we ever needed the Lord before, we sure do need him now. Yes. And it's a spiritual that I like a lot. And you don't have to believe in Lord. The idea is we need the spiritual connection now. We want to acknowledge that we're all experiencing cultural shock. And we know that we come to this meeting from the world where there is, may I say it, chaos and uncertainty. And so we want you to know that we know that, and we invite you to be here now. And we're going to do two things to help with that. One is if you would just, you want to do this first before you do the breathing, Stephen? You want to do the breathing first?
We can just pause and do some breathing and
okay. So before I give you a task, I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask Stephen if he will lead us in a centering breath so that we can leave what's out there and be with each other now.
What I'd ask everyone to do, invite everyone to just ground yourself, just put your feet flat on the floor. We know that there's a lot swirling around us at this time. Straighten your spine, relax your shoulders, and just take 2 deep breaths. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Inhale fully and exhale and just release all the tension that's there, keeping us fully present and unified in our purpose. Yeah, go ahead and take it away, Uneeda. I think we're all one. We're all one right now.
Thank you. And we're going to be talking back and forth like this because we said conversation. Even though one of us may be leading it, we're still going to be engaging. So what I'd like you to do right now is, now that you're centered, to experience what are the 3 feelings that you're bringing with you into this session right now. If you don't have 3, do 2. If you don't have 2, do 1. What are you bringing with you? And would you put it in the chat? And I think between Caroline and me, we'll be able to check and see what you're doing. So would you be willing to do that? And if so, would you start now? 3 feelings that you're bringing with you. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Ashley. We hear dismay, we hear gratitude, we hear fear, curiosity, peace, hopeful, agitation, anxiety, fear, shock, love, anticipation, optimism, curiosity, hope, fear, concern, and more hope, concern, gratitude, sadness, uncertainty. Yeah. Thank you. And for the moment, if we can leave those in chat and release them from yourself so that you can be here with us. Of course, if you want to pick them back up later, you can, but for now, just leave them in chat. disbelief, but hope. Okay, I think that's the last one. Did I miss anybody?
Unity.
Unity. Okay. I wanted to add one for me because we said we were going to share with you. At first, I was going to say anxiety, and then I realized that I actually feel a fierce hope that out of all that's happened, we will keep going toward what we really want.
Uneeda, we've lost you that last bit. You said we will keep going towards
What we want, which is freedom and equality.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So, we planned this presentation before last week. So this isn't in response to last week, although we know that these kinds of unevenness in human experience happen all the time. But this just happens to be one that's more robust than we've had in a while, more cataclysmic, I guess is the word. Phoebe, you can change the slide now. Thank you. So Dr. King wrote a book. Thank you. Yes, thank you. For in 1967, as the civil rights movement was going through a different phase, and he said, where do we go from here? Do we go toward more chaos that we've experienced throughout our history, or do we really keep working for community? Because it's not magic, it requires work. And what we invite you to do is put yourself in this picture. You're standing here, you have a choice. Do you choose to go toward community, or do you choose to go toward chaos? Now, it might seem obvious. Of course, I'm going to choose toward community. But here's the thing. Acting is the way to be choiceful, because being silent in these times is, in a way, being complicit with the chaos. And I'm not looking at anyone. What I'm saying is the reality is that in order to build community, we have to act. And Stephen and I are both committed to doing that ourselves. And we want to encourage you and invite you to get the ACT bug. And you saw this, you heard this quote. When Dr. King talks about action, what he's talking about is non-violent, direct action. That is a specific strategy, and it requires training and discipline. When I was about 16, I went to a training in our town for how do you respond in a nonviolent way to people yelling at you, screaming, attacking, because it's one, sound to be nonviolent in those situations, but it's also moral. And you know that if you think about the SPIRE model, where the spiritual purpose is our S, that it is important for us to live from that center of spiritual and morality.
Yes.
And yeah, Stephen?
I was going to add to that, that the way Dr. King put it both in his book and it's a practice.
Practice.
Yes, this nonviolent direct action is a practice. It's a day-to-day, moment-to-moment thing. Right now, everyone that's on this line, we are all right now participating in nonviolent direct action. Just this collaboration itself is nonviolent direct action.
Because we are learning about and how, and therefore we're filling ourselves up so that we can activate our hope, so that we feel that we can mobilize to do something, that when we act in a nonviolent way, we're respecting other people, we do no harm. And macro and micro actions count. So it's not one size fits all. So if you're thinking about yourself and you say, what are my strengths? How might I activate my ability to act? That's exactly where we want you to be. Keep that. Hold on to that. Phoebe, next slide. So in 1967, if you go down to 1967, I know there's a lot on this slide, and guess what? There was a lot going on in the first phase of the civil rights movement. And Dr. King says the first phase from 1955 to 1966 or 67 was about dignity, for African Americans to be treated as citizens of the United States, not second class, where there were no public accommodations, there were no ability to aspire and achieve what was the potential inside of any person. And so thank you, Patrice, for that. And we hope that if you stay with us through this presentation, you will be encouraged and your ability to envision yourself acting will be encouraged, because you are acting right now. You're here with us right now. And we embrace you and we thank you for saying that, because we know that having all of our feelings and then experiencing them and working through them allows us to heal and regenerate. So thank you for that.
And one thing I was going to add, Uneeda, is that like in 1967 and the eras surrounding that, making a choice to be that light and to do this direct action is actually, people are threatening others with violence just by standing up, just by being a light, just by collaborating and distinguishing yourself from chaos is drawing attention, sometimes violent attention to you. So this is an era like in 1967. It requires courage
It does.
to at this juncture that we're at.
And if you notice, you can't see everything, but on the left-hand side, down to 1961, there was agitation and marching and not getting up. Rosa Parks didn't get up, and that led to a year and 16 days of a boycott. And African Americans, I also say Black people sometimes, organized ride shares. They walked because their dignity was affronted by being forced to sit in the back of the bus and give up seats. And it wasn't just that, it's also being a human being, that I have the right to be here, to be on this bus, to be in this store, to be on this street. And it took a lot of work and discipline, including assassinations. There's so many people who died, we can't even list their names. And out of that chaos and that focus and those collaborations and alliances, because you know there were multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational, multi-geographic coalitions of people working together for freedom and equality. 64 Civil Rights Act, 64 Voting Rights Act, and then, no, we didn't stop and say, oh my goodness, we've accomplished everything we wanted to do. Phase one. And when Dr. King wrote the book, the question was being asked, where do we go from here after all this? And so his challenge and his wisdom was, we always have a choice. Yes, thank you, Lois. I did too. No, I'm not suggesting that you do anything right now. We're actually going to offer you a menu of options at the end. And it may be that some people say, yes, I want to protest. And there may be other people who say, for example, I want to write a letter to my congressman. That's my nonviolent direct action. I want my voice heard in concert with others. So we're not offering any proscription or any prescription for what needs to be done. We're saying we know that in order to build community, we need to work together to take action. Phoebe, next slide. What Dr. King suggests and what we also know is that to bring about a social change, so to go from injustice and lack of equality to equality and social justice is not just about law, because laws don't implement themselves. People implement laws. And so what gets in the way of people either being willing to say yes to equality and social justice or to actually help implement it And I think, Caroline, we were speaking earlier about the prison of fear. Did you want to add that comment now?
Sure. Basically, what Tara Brach, who's a wonderful meditation teacher in the DC area, talks about when human beings are afraid, they get dangerous. And there was a recent article in the Sociological Association that was published. Dr. Sherry Kelly sent it to me. She might be on the call and she can speak more to it about why do people have believe in conspiracy theories, right?
Mhm.
And one of the reasons that they do apparently is because when we get afraid, we instantly want to blame others, or that's one response. So to put the blame on something makes us feel like we have a way to contain it or control it. So it stems from this lack of certainty, this lack of safety, which is a basic need. And that one of the things that we really need to be careful of is how do we mitigate our own fear so that we stay open to possibility, right, in our brain, and we can see options. And then that, Stephen, I wanted you to talk about that from a mindfulness point of view and from a yoga point of view, how that practice helps us be in choice, right?
Yes.
All of the time to choose the nonviolent way. When we get triggered by fear, I think the temptation to act in an angry way is greater.
And we might just take one breath. And for the person who said, I can only do a personal action, that is a wonderful personal action. Just taking the breath to be centered and not react. Tossing it to Stephen.
Everyone is point on with regard to that. I want to emphasize what Uneeda and I were mentioning. What we're doing in this moment is nonviolent direct action. And as Uneeda pointed out, we're not going to be prescribing anything other than staying in the moment, being loving in the moment. And I don't want to steal our thunder toward the end. Everyone brings gifts and beauty and assets and contacts and resources that you can bring to bear in your own way, and so we'll talk about that. We'll brainstorm about that. We'll have a breakout session about that, and everybody will make a contribution. Everybody is, okay? There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, thank you so much.
Yes, and you're just taking the words out of my. I don't know. Is it Ellen, Ellyn? If so, give me an okay. If you know your VIA strengths, or you're a student of positive psychology, you know that you have and we have strengths. All of us do. Terrific. Thank you, Ellen. And when we look at, and in the time that Dr. King is talking about, white America in the South was resisting all the efforts to bring about equality and social justice. And what he was wanting us to know then was this is in a way predictable, because it's status change. It is lifestyle change. And actually it's being marketed as worse than it is. And if you know what's going on now, you know it's the same thing, that magnifying the negative as opposed to exploring, well, what might I be able to do in this moment, which I know is also part of Dr. Tomasulo's work with hopefulness, that what can I do in this moment versus there's nothing I can do. There may be one thing, which is, Stephen said, I can take a deep breath and I can be centered and calm myself, because when I contact another person, I'm radiating energy. And if I'm radiating calm, I'm contributing to community.
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to add one of the word fear. One of the things in the community that I grew up in, we looked at the word fear, and it's actually an acronym for false evidence appearing real. False evidence
appearing.
That's number one. And one of the things that I'll add to what Uneeda was pointing out is that really every given moment, There are far more wonderful, healing, positive, and beautiful things going on in the world. And so I would say that oftentimes one of the things that we allow to take over in terms of reality on any, use an example, growing up in Harlem in the late 50s, early 60s and 70s, on any given day, there were children that were practicing their instruments, going to church, there were community groups, but none of that hit the news. All it would take is maybe 1 out of 10,000 Black males, say, in the community that does something negative, and that would be on the news, okay? And that's occurring in white and Black and Jewish and
Latino and
the world. So all of us have to keep in mind that when the media highlights any particular thing in your community, in your household, in your relationships, there are wonderful things occurring. And so we have to keep that in mind and just reframe, not to ignore the horrendous, horrific, and violent things that are going on, but we have to also take time to appreciate and have gratitude about the beauty, the collaboration, and the wonder and the miracles that are occurring in every given moment.
thank you for that. And to add on to what you're saying, Dr. King says this in 1967. He says just what you said. In the ghetto, there are families working hard to get their kids to school. There are churches, there are societies that we need to expand our conception of what is going on. And again, I invite the question that I have adopted now from Dr. Tomasulo. What else might be possible? What other way might I think about this? And if I don't have another way, how might I learn something that would enlarge my awareness and understanding? What else might be true? Thank you. Phoebe, we can go to the next slide. We got to mosey on along. I wanted to, and Stephen and I wanted you to know that when we talk about the Montgomery bus boycott, we stop at the place where, wow, they won the right to sit on the bus. It took a year, but they were persistent. Whoa, wasn't that wonderful? Guess what happened afterward? Yes, thank you for all the contributions, and we will respond to them in a moment. There were Dr. King, who was living in Montgomery, and he was pastoring a church, had a shotgun fired to his house that same year in December. Christmas Eve, a Black teenager was attacked as she was walking off a newly integrated bus. 2 buses were fired on by snipers. 1957, the beginning of the year, 5 bombs destroyed 5 churches and the home of a white man who had publicly supported the boycott. The city passed an ordinance that prohibited, and I think the ordinance probably must be 25 pages because they listed everything that you could possibly do. You can't play basketball, football, baseball, soccer, tennis, indoor, outdoor, walking. It's like, oh my goodness. And yet, and Mrs. Parks had to move away from Montgomery. She moved up to Detroit because she was threatened. And so I'm not saying this to depress you. I'm saying this to activate your hope, because what Dr. King says and what we know is that isn't the end, because accommodations are integrated in Montgomery. But the immediate backlash was fierce. And Dr. King reminds us that it isn't really white backlash. It is that these negative, prejudiced, bigoted feelings are in our culture. Sometimes they're latent, sometimes they're more visible. Nevertheless, they're there. The tension from seeking equality brings them to the surface. And guess what? That is really good news, because now we know what we're dealing with. Stephen, you wanted to add something.
What I wanted to add, and I'm trying to be wary of not stealing our thunder or my own thunder.
I know.
time is very rapid, but I'll fast forward a little bit just to get that out there. And one of the things that Uneeda and I spoke about in many hours of conversation in preparing for this hour, and this comes from something that I think might resonate with the Jewish Community Center, as well as African Americans and people of color. And that is the concept of being aware of complicity and collaboration with whatever is going on. I remembered going to the Holocaust Museum when it first opened up over 25 years ago. I think it's over 25 years ago now. And wonderful exhibit. If you haven't gone there, it's something that I think that everyone should go to. But it took that museum about at least 25 years or more to do an exhibit called Complicity and Collaboration in the Holocaust. Why do I bring that up? I bring that up because, like with the things we're struggling with social justice and justice for all, everyone has to take a look at what we're doing or not doing, look at our investments, look at what times we've been silent, what times we haven't been introspective enough, or when we've decided not to engage in direct action of some sort, and look at ourselves, even as an African American, even as a person of whatever faith, to say, what, if anything, are we doing that could potentially be complicit or collaborative in the very things that we say that we want to fight against? And that's a question that each of us has to ask in terms of where are we, where is the here? The here could be a personal thing in terms of us coming to grips and being critical about our own role in these things.
And there's a comment about the 80 million people, I assume you mean, who voted for President Trump, who were feeling disenfranchised.
No, I was referring to the people that stormed the Capitol.
Yes, thank you for that. And yes, that's a valid piece of information for us to take in. And as people who are coming from a place of love and wanting justice and using the power that we have for good, we do need to ask ourselves what might be possible that would alleviate this bigotry, because underneath the disenfranchisement, if you're walking around in the Capitol with a Confederate battle flag, you're also saying something else. I feel disenfranchised, and I also subscribe to these values. And so what do we do? And I'm not asking because I have an answer. I am asking because you're absolutely right. We need to answer together the question, what do we do? How do we begin to alleviate this? And I'm sad that I don't have a magic wand that I can answer the question completely, but I hope we'll keep talking about it so we can find an answer together. When Stephen is talking, I have an article that I just read that I'm going to go and get, and that's a reference you may want to read, that we may all want to read. I'm not going to go through this very much, but this is the same time period in the 2000s as when Dr. King was writing about the 60s, about 11 years from 2008, when Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, the first African-American man. And guess what? The backlash, the reaction, predictable, because it was present and it just came to the surface. And just yesterday, the man who amplified the false birther conspiracy from 2011 was impeached for the second time. And the dance that the two of them have done over this 8-9 year period is sad to experience, because our country could be moving forward as opposed to the kind of divisions and anger and disenfranchised feelings that erupt into violence and discord. And what our challenge and what Dr. King is saying is our challenge, and if you'll go to the next slide, is to be aware of the chaos, to see it, to understand it, and then to work through the way that we can to strengthen and build community. And I hear you. I got to go back and make sure I speak your name correctly. Someone, Lois, was it you that put in the comment about being tired? I understand that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what we might want to do and what you might want to ask for from us is support for you as you're feeling that, because as you go through it, that you may discover that there is one little spark of energy left that you might want to tap into. And if you don't, that's okay too. We have a right to be tired.
Yeah,
we have
things I would share, and I was in conversations that I have across racial lines and religious lines and things like that. We were talking about the issue of fatigue. And in a conversation that I had today with another African-American, we were both lamenting about how, as an African-American or a person of color, sometimes, and I'll admit this, we're all adults here, we find ourselves sometimes saying, you know, if we're continuing to stay vigilant in the midst of this as an African-American, then anyone who's going through this that, you know, isn't a person of color, or say if you're someone that is experiencing trauma from these things all the time, draw upon that strength, because, you know, as the old Negro spiritual would go, I ain't no ways tired, okay? And so we have to keep in mind that no matter where we are on that continuum of just the fact that we're on this line, there's always going to be someone in the community that is suffering even more trauma and more degradation. I just got back from Sierra Leone in West Africa, and lived in some communities and went to some villages as an example of folks that are living on sometimes less than $1 a day. Okay, I drew strength from that. These are some of the villages that I lived in when I was a Peace Corps volunteer 40 years ago. And I went back, and they don't have an elementary school in some of the villages that I was in just a few weeks ago. And as much as that tore at my heart, that there are communities that don't have even an elementary school for children, I gained strength from that. And so that's one of the things that I will share with you, that if you're feeling tired, sometimes one of the things that you could do, in addition to prayer, is to be mindful and keep present the fact that there are people that are suffering immediately with that breath. And you can take a deep breath yourself and say, hey, I am no ways tired. I need to keep going through this because there are folks that are going through as we speak. And that's just something I'm offering to you as one of an infinite number of ways to keep going through these difficult times.
Thank you. I'm just going to check in with you. We have about 15 minutes left, and we wanted to give them maybe 5 minutes to get in a breakout group. Yeah. Do we want to go straight to this now?
I would say let's move forward and get to the breakout groups so they can.
Okay, because this is the question that I'm hearing and that we're asking you. What can we do to transform ourselves? And what can we do to contribute to transforming our society? And there are a lot of wonderful comments in chat, and we hope you're going to keep talking about it. And next week, we're going to spend more time in conversation. So next slide, Phoebe, and Stephen is going to speak about this.
Yeah, very quickly, the fierce conversations that I'm challenging folks to do, and you can read these slides. I would say number one, mastering that courage to interrogate reality. And that reality is, most importantly, the reality within ourselves, and also be willing to interrogate the reality that's going on in society. Fierce conversations, being prepared and being present, taking responsibility for your emotional weight. I'm not going to read each and every one of them, but the last one I'll go to as well. Letting silence sometimes do the heavy lifting. As Martin Luther King was pointing out, enough talk, coming to grips within yourself as to what you need to do, and leaving enough space for yourself to grow into that and allow that silence to do the heavy lifting. So with that being said, I think we can go to the next slide and then go to the breakout groups. I do have this here in terms of what things we can do in terms of nonviolent direct action. One quick summary of these 6 bullets that are here is for each person to, again, look within. There's no prescription in terms of what you can do, but the key thing is to challenge yourself and challenge your community. Instead of pointing a finger outward, they always say, when you're pointing a finger outward, and I'll pick someone here, when we're looking at Trump, just keep in mind, and pointing the finger at him, there are 3 fingers pointed at ourselves, okay? I'm not ignoring the fact that we're pointing at someone like Trump and those folks that stormed the Capitol last week, or the 80 million people that maybe voted for Trump. But at any given moment, in every given breath, there are three fingers pointed at me in terms of what Steve Redmon is doing. And each of us can stay mindful enough to know that we're going to keep it within and also look at what we have to do. And next slide.
We want to give you, do you think, so it's 12:44. If we do 6 minutes, that would bring us to 12:50, 12:51. Can we do 6, do you think?
Perfect.
Okay. We want you to talk with each other about what's resonating if you're kinesthetic, or what are you seeing and envisioning, or what are you hearing, whichever way you process, what's coming up for you about this. And you don't have to speak about a commitment right now, but if you want to talk to people about it, next week we'll get into that more. So talk about what you're responding to in this presentation is basically what we're asking you to do. And if you don't want to go into a group, don't select a group. Stephen and Caroline and I will be here, and we'll be happy to be in dialogue with you.
Uneeda and Stephen, this is Phoebe. I also know there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of things already, so just adding that to the prompt.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, Phoebe. See how we need each other? Right here on this call, we need each other. Thank you. So what resonates for you, what you're already doing, what you might want to do. We'll see you. Please select join. Oh my goodness, so much wonderful information into, hey, Bunny, you going to stay here with us? So unmute yourself so we can talk. And Karen, please unmute yourself because we want to speak to you. If you don't mind, if you don't want to unmute, that's okay, but we'd love to be in conversation with you. So Bunny, did you want to be in conversation with us?
No, I'm going, no.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for unmuting and saying that, and thank you for being here with us.
Hi, I unfortunately had a conflict this morning and just jumped in way too late to have a conversation about anything. And I'm really sorry that I.
Well, you know what?
I know we'll have a recording.
Yes, thank you for being here though, Laura, because actually your presence adds to the mix no matter when you arrive.
I know you did I guess you did a piece at the Whole Being Institute, and that introductory conversation, I I was quite moved by it. So I understand you're going to be back again next week. Is that?
Yeah, Stephen and I are coming back. We thought that after sharing so much information, that we would have an opportunity for conversation, because moving toward community requires practice. And just as someone said in the chat, there are people who are feeling disenfranchised and living in chaos. And African Americans know what that's like. We have felt for almost all of our history in the United States, and there are other groups who felt that way too, disenfranchised. We want to strengthen the community so that people feel that they have a place in the circle of the society, the culture. The difficulty that we are always faced with is that underbelly of misogyny and prejudice and bigotry and fear.
Yeah.
What do we do to help people? I don't know what the right verb is. Maybe Caroline has a verb. If a person is carrying that, what do we do? Dr. King said in his book, you know, we can work with people who want to work with us. They don't have to always be agreeing. But if someone is absolutely opposed to your being a part of the culture, you can't really work with that person or that group, because the goals are diametrically opposed. So there is work to be done with them, but it may not be by us. Oh, I see your dog. She's coming.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think it's also important to just be willing to have conversations with people. I know that I've had conversations with neighbors that here, I'm living in Pennsylvania, that have been Trump supporters and are distressed by what happened in the Capitol, and just hearing their point of view. Mm-hmm. And it's a completely different perspective than my own. And just being able to hold the space for that, Uneeda, is what I feel like a contribution. I know a lot of people are just not having the conversations at all.
Yes, thank you, Bunny.
I respect that choice, but for me, it feels like one of the ways that I can be active is to attempt to comprehend and understand a different point of view that is very different from my own.
Yes, and you know something else, I used to be like a crazy, wild-eyed person about people not wearing masks. I just was beyond annoyed. And then I got a hold of myself and I said, you wear a mask. You don't have to be assaulting people. And I wasn't assaulting, but you know, in my head, I was just calling them all kinds of names. And then it occurred to me, I'm not spreading peace by even carrying that thought. That even if I don't talk to people, at the very least, when my brother used to come down here, he would go somewhere and they would say, oh, who you here be visiting? And say, oh yeah, we see her walking her little dog. She has such a nice expression on her face. And I said, you could do that. You could just carry positive energy. You don't have to try to convince anybody about anything. So we can talk to people. We can just be. Sometimes just being is good.
And I think that idea of meeting somebody that is respectful, that has a different point of view, can be an amazing example. And what I've said is, you know, I'm really committed to democracy. I'm really committed to civil discourse. I'm really committed to being able to communicate with you, because to me, if we can do that, our country can do that.
Yeah, and you know what? The Dalai Lama says that we change one heart at a time. I used to get so annoyed with that. It's like, no, I want pixie dust. I want it to like, am I the only one? But it is true that it's in those conversations we're having with ourselves and with others. Yeah, and that is the work.
And I love what you said about, it reminds me about what a dear, she was like my bubby.
Yes.
which in Yiddish means grandmother, she would say, you're thinking about that person, but they're not thinking about you. They're occupying real estate in your head. And I wouldn't, and you know what, don't sell it so cheaply. And I thought, that's pretty good wisdom.
I love it.
Like to what you were saying. Now, let me know about when you think I should bring folks back.
I think about now.
Okay, so that'll give everybody a
Yeah.
minute.
Thank you, Bunny. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Karen, for being here with us.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. I admire your fortitude. We're going to close the break. Oh, you're so kind. You got to teach me how to use that one. That we're going to close as opposed to just shutting people off.
Here we are. I study Torah every week with a woman who voted for Trump. It is a complex spiritual growth relationship since we both have very different political views. Fortitude. Absolutely, Sherry. That is a great example. And what I was said to my neighbor was, you as a very conservative Republican are looking at part of the picture. And me as a liberal Democrat, I'm looking at a different part of the picture, but we still need to see the whole picture and we need each other to see everything. And we might not, because I can't see it all. I can't see the world from your point of view. I need to hear what you're saying. I'm not going to be paying attention to what you're paying attention to, and you're not going to be paying attention to what I'm paying attention to. So together we cover more ground. And that's one of the reasons I think democracy is so beautiful, is we are human. We are not perfect. We are not whole. We are infallible. We're not infallible. We're going to make mistakes, and we do have gaps. So I think it's important to acknowledge that, right? Rather than othering, is what Stephen was talking about.
Yay.
So I think, is everybody back?
Are we back? Stephen,
Yep.
are you back?
Did we lose Stephen?
Folks are all back, I think. I see 48 people in the...
Oh, yay, you came back. We love it. Oh,
Great.
wow. Thank you, Ellen. Oh, thank you. I'm reading the chat. One of the things, and I think we have time for this. I think if we take about 1 minute, we can do it. If you would share with us just what you're doing right now, what you got out of your conversations. And what I'm reading, I'll read them, Stephen. Breakout was awesome. Number 4 was awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. So inspiring. Our conversation brought tears to my eyes. Wonderful group. Watching Fox News, everyone once in a while increases compassion.
Great.
Yeah. This is exactly what we wanted you to get, is what you got. Whatever you got was fine, because we wanted you to have an opportunity to make a connection, to build a little community.
Yeah, maybe we have time. I know I saw, we just cherry picked. I saw Charlie's group was awesome. Maybe we could take about 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to share a really quick 30 seconds as to what was so awesome about your group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will speak on behalf of my group, 2 beautiful ladies who are already in action. They are already started. They have started the process, and it's beautiful. And we were talking about what actually is the center of what we're all doing in our respective communities. And we came up with 4. As a matter of fact, it was Carrie who shared love, acceptance, compassion, and gratitude. So I think that's less than 30 seconds, and we're good. We had a great time. I hope everyone else had one as well.
Excellent.
Oh, and you're going to have more of this next time, because we're really grounding ourselves in conversation next time. And I know Stephen calls it the World Cafe.
Yeah.
Some people call it story circles, breakout groups.
Yeah.
Yay.
Is anybody else bursting with love that wants to share something from their group before we go to our guided meditation?
And there's some more in chat.
Caroline was in a group, maybe, or Bunny or someone. Joanne?
Joanne, do you want to share anything?
I
Group
couldn't, I
7.
didn't join a group. Someone came to my door and I had put on my mask and get rid of the roaches.
Okay. I saw group
So I'm not
7.
part of a
Did
group.
somebody from group 7 want to say something? Did I step on somebody who was speaking? I apologize if I did. So-
From group 7, it ended up only being 2 of us.
Mhm.
We had 4 originally, but 2 people, I guess they kind of didn't want to talk. Some people prefer not to be in groups, individual groups. But I think that was good because of the fact that it started a discussion for us, and just being able to approach the subject was really good.
Awesome.
You're filling us up. This is so great.
So is this the time before we close? We
Yes.
want to list, this is not an all-inclusive list of the types of nonviolent direct actions that you can take. You can see it's a wide variety of things. And everything is centered on the gifts that God or your creator has given you. You start from where you are. It's, as Uneeda pointed out earlier, it's not prescriptive, but everybody's going to start from where they are and do something. And what we're doing right now is nonviolent direct action. And we're looking forward to next week as well, where we're going to share the various things that we're doing. And it's just a wonderful thing.
And we want to invite you also in preparation for next week, if you're able to watch the movie One Night in Miami. It's on Amazon Prime. I know it's other places, but I don't know the other places. And if Stephen knows, he'll tell you.
It's in some movie theaters, but it actually it will be offered on Amazon Prime tomorrow.
Which is actually Dr. King's actual birthday.
And my son's birthday as well.
And your son's birthday, yay! He got the Capricorn spirit.
Yeah.
Also, if you would just share with one other person what you got from today, you will be building community. And if you are doing things or have done things, share that. And Arnold Schwarzenegger made this wonderful video. I think it's on YouTube. It brought tears to my eyes. It's about 7 minutes long, and he talks about growing up in Austria and Kristallnacht. His father, I won't give it away, but if you're able to watch any of these videos, the One Night in Miami, or, oh yeah, Sounds True is offering free webinars also. But his comparison to Kristallnacht from his own lived experience was very powerful. Okay.
So before we close, I guess we're almost at the end. Before we close, is it the time I was going to do this very quick guided meditation?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to keep it very short, very short. It's
okay, Judy, we'll ask for that next time.
Integrative restoration is a type of yoga nidra that was developed by Dr. Richard Miller, and there are various lengths of yoga nidra that we could do under integrative restoration or IREST. So what we're going to do right now is a 1 minute, a 1 minute guided meditation, yoga nidra. So I'm going to ask everyone, and then we'll close more formally. But if everyone can just sit upright, or you can lay down if you want to. I would suggest that you relax your shoulders, take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and just for a moment, just affirm your heartfelt mission. Whatever your heartfelt mission is in life, just affirm it in this moment. Whatever your core values are that provides purpose and meaning to your life, just bring those to your mind in this moment. Affirm your intention that supports you to live your heartfelt mission. Affirm your inner resources, that strength within you that allows you to be who you are as your creator made you to be. Sense your body. Feel the sensation in your feet, your legs, your torso, your body, the sensations of your neck and your head, the sensation behind your eyes. Sense your body breathing itself. Feel each inhale and each exhale. Allow whatever feelings and emotions that are present for you, allow them to just be without judgment. And bring to mind the opposites of whatever feelings and emotions are present for you in this moment. Now, very gently allow yourself to drift back and forth between the opposites of feelings and thoughts and emotions that are present for you. Welcome the sense of joy and well-being that is your birthright. Joy and well-being emanating from within you and into the space around you. Experience just being awareness, the space and openness of awareness. And now allow yourself to experience the wholeness of life, recognizing and responding perfectly in any given situation. You know within yourself, you have within you the perfect response to each and every situation that you encounter. Allow yourself to just be there. Now, very quickly, just begin to deepen the breath, wiggle your toes and your fingers, and allow yourself to just come back to your wide awake self, refreshed and rejuvenated and ready for direct action, and whatever that may be.
We loved being here with you, and we love that you were here with us. And we thank you so much for spending this hour and 2 minutes with us. We loved it. Thank you.
Well, we loved you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Lois. I was just about to say the same thing. Thank you so much, Uneeda and Stephen, and we look forward to next week. And everybody know that the JCC has the Social Justice Film Festival in honor of
yes.
Martin Luther King, so please check that out. Please check out the things in the chat. We will be here next Tuesday with Sue Baldwin, who's going to be doing an amazing positive psychology hour with us, and then back again with Stephen and Uneeda on Thursday. Be well, be safe. And you know what? It just occurred to me that on next Thursday, the inauguration will have happened. So we will have lots to talk about, and we'll continue this amazing conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So long for now.
So long.
Bye.
Thank you.